I'm Terry Bell.
And I'm Robert Bell. We represent Tide Mill Enterprises. We are master loggers in Down East Maine. We've been managing forestry land and harvesting forestry land for close to 40 years.
I'm Brian Bell, Terry Bell's son, Bob's nephew. What sets this apart from other modes of logging, which is usually known as tree length logging, is that it allows us to grab the tree, directionally fell it to take into account no residual damage to the stand. It uses very sophisticated computers, measurement diameters, lengths, to calculate that, and one tree can go to many different markets.
We can utilize smaller stems, and the yield is more per acre when we do cut with our equipment. Maine has 17 different species of trees, so you can't really go in with a preconceived notion on how you want to harvest that. You kind of have to come to each acre at a time and see what the diverse biodiversity is there and what it's growing, and then thin accordingly. We think every forest needs to be managed just to become more healthy. We can manage for the long term. You can increase production, have a healthier forest, and still have something you can enjoy. So our approach is not a one-shot deal. What you see here is a tree that's been released by thinning competitive trees from around it. So here was a tree size. It looks to me like it was about 30 years old, and then it was thinned, and in the past 6 years it added that much growth. The thinning allowed the tree to get more light, more nutrients, and less competition for those things, and you've basically thinned out the weaker and you've left the dominant tree, and he took advantage of that and is growing better. The average acre in the state of Maine grows about a quarter to half a cord per acre. With our management, it can be pushed up to a cord per acre a year. Some landowners see that they only have a choice between money or forest, and we say no, you can have both. The trees are processed in the woods with the limbs laying down a mat that you're now riding over. You cut down on ruts, erosion, and you're gentler on the ground. And because you process the trees in the woods, you don't have to have wide turn areas. You can keep your carders to 12 feet rather than bringing out a tree that has limbs and all on it, where some of these carders get widened to 20 feet.
This computer allows for adjustments to be made on minute levels to make the machine more efficient and essentially accomplish what I want it to do, which is what the forest needs or dictates.
We find a lot of landowners have needs of wildlife, recreation, profitable forest, and a scenic forest, and we feel we can achieve all of those with our management skills and the equipment that we use.
So the first time we went through, the forest was very thick and you could barely walk through it, and a lot of these were stems that were this size. Then we came back in about, I would say, 5 years later, and this was the harvest at that time. And then 6 years later after that would be this harvest, which was just last year. And now these trees are released and they're getting bigger and growing faster. You basically have a 3-stage forest. You always have a forest. There'll be trails through a forest, and you do get income. We harvest about 5 cords per acre every time we come back through, which is around a 10 to 12 year cycle. So it's not a choice of having a forest or income. We feel you can have both.
Our desire to meet the needs of the land and the landowner, I feel, set us apart from others out there.
We feel that we're working for the forest as much as we're working for the landowners, and it's the forest that dictates how it should be managed. And it feels good to see an improved woodlot. It feels good to see a growth of a forest that's been stagnated.
A lot of times, from the landowner's point of view, the thought is you just cut the wood. We use the wood cutting as a first step in long-term management. Being in the wonderful state of Maine, the one thing we know it can do is grow trees. And when given the right chance with these pieces of machinery and what they can do, we can meet all the needs as consumers and use the forest as a resource, but still have it as a forest.